Hey, what's happening, everybody? Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Once again, guys, we are continuing with the LJN tournament because what else do we got to do on this tournament, right? Not being on a serious note, though, uh, this tournament really has taken up a lot of time from all other videos I've been wanting to make. One of the big highlights that I really coveted, that I wanted to do this year was kind of branch out away from just wrestling or away from just collections type videos. And that was always a major goal of mine in 2023. And I probably put out a north of 200 videos in 2023, and that was a huge success. But I still consider the year to be a failure overall because I didn't put out the type of videos I had been planning on making. So when the calendar turned, I said, you know what? Stop being lazy, learn how to do some editing, and yeah, I've been actually very successful for the most part in kind of getting out new content, incorporating different storylines, different types of videos. So it's not just collections and other type of videos. Now I've been noticing a lot of unsubscriptions lately. And I don't know what that is, man. I really wish that there was some kind of checklist or something that someone had to fill out, like, why are you unsubscribing from this person? Lost interest, or just don't have time for it, just something, just so you can kind of see what it is that what the person is looking for, what their interests are. That way you can kind of learn and make better videos or incorporate new content, stuff like that. And that way you're not losing subscribers. It's kind of demoralizing. I don't say kind of. It is. I see it for a lot of other content creators, especially small channels like mine. It's something where I've always said, man, if you look at the people that have subscribed, if I've had all those people who've unsubscribed from me over the last couple of years, I probably have about 1,300 subscribers right now. I'm like, dude, I'd be freaking monetized right now. I could be making money off these videos. I'm getting the itch. I'm past the halfway mark, so I know when I said I started this channel, it was never about getting monetized. I didn't even know that was even a thing. I just wanted to make videos for fun, but when I found out that was a thing, I'm like, okay, cool. If it happens, it happens. But as obviously over time, as the collection grew, and as I decided to make more and more videos, decided to put more, invest more and more into the collection, which meant investing in this channel. I kind of feel like it's necessary now to get monetized, so I'm always kind of looking out for new ideas and new ways to bring in new viewers. So at any time, guys, if there's anything that I say that you don't like or don't agree with, and you feel like you need to unsubscribe from me because of something that I might have said, please bring it to my attention first, and let me see if I can rectify the situation. Again, I don't think it's anything like that. I just think it's simply me putting out way too many videos, and maybe someone out there just simply doesn't have the time to. And I know it's annoying. If you're watching YouTube and you're looking at your recommended list, you don't want to keep saying my videos over and over again. You might want to see other recommended videos, so maybe that has something to do with it. Just kind of like my theory, but I don't know. But you guys know I always have to kind of talk a little bit at the beginning of my videos. That way we're just not just simply diving right into the videos at hand. Kind of have a little bit of communication at the beginning of the video. Like, hi, how are you guys doing type of deal. So that's what's going on with me a little bit. A couple days ago, the 17th, my wife's birthday. First year, I didn't have a present for her. And we discussed this. So it's not like it was something that, like, hey, you're such a jerk for not buying your wife a present. No, it's if you were kids, Christmas and birthdays were important because you know what? That's like the only time you're gonna get gifts, or you want a specific gaming system or specific clothes or something or new toys. Something. It's important, but when you're adults, I mean, you want something, you can buy it whenever you want. So it doesn't become as important when you're adults. I think just the ability just to spend time with each other and whatnot and have a good day together. I think that's the important part. So, but I think overall she had a nice birthday. So it was a nice day. And for those of you that wished her happy birthday, I did pass along your message. It did bring a smile to her face, so thank you for that. Today's first matchup, guys, is going to be Hillbilly Jim. This is light blue overalls. I think that's the last Hillbilly Jim from this tournament. He will square off against Ken Patera, Wrestling Rider. Dig into the bottom here. NJ Hogan. Okay, so that's New Japan Hogan from Random Treasures. And he squares off, wow, Paul Bearer. Next matchup is going to feature Doink. We did Doink already, but that's not the Raider Nation Doink. That actually comes from Mike Stiers. And he will... Why? Why? Colonel Mustafa. Last matchup is going to feature Ric Flair as he does battle against Purple Slick. Alright, folks. Allow me a split second to go ahead and pull those figures, and I'll be back momentarily. Alright, figures pulled. Let's begin, shall we? First one, it is a really good matchup, and not an easy one. Ken Patera squares off against Hillbilly Jim. So, Hillbilly Jim, we've actually looked at a very similar figure. And we look at the Mark Hackenberg repaint. Now, the Mark Hackenberg repaint, he used the same detailed color scheme to the coveralls. To the coveralls. So, no, they're not called coveralls. They're called overalls. Sorry. To the overalls as the original LJN. Now this is a much lighter blue design, right? And the customizer, I'm not really sure I don't remember who I got this from, but they did the same thing. Black shirt, and they did fill in the buckles as well as kind of give a little design on the back of the handkerchief, which I really like. Throw in the little hat, bam, you got a beautiful prototype-esque Hillbilly Jim figure. I really don't mind if it's this version or the Mark Hackenberg version that goes forward. It's both essentially the same figure. Again, I guess I could say because this is unique in a matter of speaking, in the fact that it's a lighter blue shade. Maybe it holds more significance to an extent, but not really. I mean, that one, paint-wise, his obviously holds up a little bit better. I mean, there are some discrepancies, especially around the shirt and whatnot, but in a tournament like this, you're not really harboring on every single defect and whatnot. You're not doing a necessary review on the figures, right? You're kind of looking at every figure as if the detail throughout every figure was absolutely perfect. Even if it's like completely marked up or sticky or whatever, or massive paint, something. You still gonna look at it as like it's in perfect condition for the sake of a tournament like this. Ken Patera, it's funny because when I a couple years ago, when I did my top 10 least favorite LJNs, it was really freaking hard to choose 10 bad LJN figures. And I had no idea who I wanted to put on the list at number 10. I thought about guys like Jake Roberts. And I can't remember. I don't think Jake Roberts... Actually, was Jake Roberts on that list? If Jake Roberts wasn't on the list, then I think if I went back, I would probably add him in at number 10. But I'm almost positive he was. Another person that just barely missed the top 10 was Ricky Steamboat. Eventually, I went with the Ken Patera, because even though I really liked the purple look, I thought the Ken Patera was a good, solid figure. Good, bulky figure that I really like. What got me overall was the fighting pose. And at the end of the day, that's all of it. Ted Orsini probably could have been on that list. Again, I don't know if Ted Orsini was on that list. I'm just looking at the shelf right now. Iron Sheik, Jimmy Snuka, Roddy Piper. Those are definites. Maybe Paul Orndorff, maybe not. Jesse Ventura was definitely on there. Tito Santana was definitely on there, 5. Orton, 6. I think I had Hercules on there, 7. And the only reason Hercules would have been on there is because of the play pose. Otherwise, he's a good looking figure overall. And I think I had Ken Patera number 10. So who was 8 and 9? I think Haku was definitely on that list. So I don't know. Maybe Ted Orsini was on that list. But the one that we got from Eric, he did a pretty solid job giving you a kind of a much younger version, kind of like an Olympic Ken Patera. So Ken Patera purple original version was on my list of top 10 worst LJN figures yet. Ken Patera from Wrestling Writer, this one, was on my top 10 list of best Wrestling Writer figures. So I've said before, a good paint job could really make all the difference in the world. And like I said, man, at the end of the day, if I go back today, tomorrow, next year, Ken Patera will not be on the list of top 10 bad LJN figures. He could be a top 15, top 20 worst, but he is not a top 10. It's a solid figure. It's just this. I thoroughly enjoy the figure. I really do. But Hillbilly Jim, I mean, I think I've got a couple of his figures in the next round already. Because here's the thing though. I keep saying I've got a couple of his figures. If I push this one forward, it's not really affecting anything, because if I say, well, I got a like figure in the next round. Okay, what if that figure gets eliminated in the next round? If this one is in the next round too, at least it gives another like figure and a potential for advancement into round 3. But I really can't look at it like that. For me, I don't think there's a wrong answer here, but I'm going to go with Eric's Ken Patera on this one. He might be only a second rounder at best. He might make it to the third round. I don't know. Is he going to win the tournament? But he's got a potential to at least go make a pretty decent push in this tournament, and that should be fun. So Ken Patera is going to defeat Hillbilly Jim. Next matchup was both from Random Treasures, and it featured the New Japan Pro Wrestling Hogan as he squares off against Paul Bearer. I like both figures, but I also have issues with both figures. I will explain. We will start with Hulk Hogan. I get it. The Series 5 Hulk Hogan from LJN, it was a commemorative type Hogan. It was a much more valuable piece than your Series 1 Hogan. You go on eBay, Mercari, what have you, a Series 1 Hogan beat up, you probably get it for around $10, $15. Even mint, you're looking at what, $20? Depending on the seller, you might go 30, 35. Even that's probably pushing it. But like, to go $30, $35, the buyer really has to be desperate for like the most mint figure ever. Whereas the most beat up, destroyed white shirt Hogan, for example, is going to go for $60 to $125. Red shirt Hogan, again, the red shirt can be practically completely faded off. It's still going to go for $125 to $200. I understand that the Series 5 Hogan is much more valuable in that regard. But the Series 5 is just a terrible, terrible play pose. It's funny. When I talk about these videos I made, talking about my rating system, and when I did my top 20 list, and I did numbers 11 through 20, in the video I put a Series 5 Hogan at like number 18 or 19, 18, 19, or 20, somewhere at the very bottom of the 11 through 20 list. So how could a figure I classify as really terrible be in the top 20? And it does look pretty sharp. It looks spectacular. White shirt or red shirt Hogan. But if you want to save some money and go through Ram Treasures to get yourself a white shirt or red shirt Hogan, yeah, I understand having the mold to do so. For Ram Treasures, that works beautifully. Got it. You want to do the Rip 'em, no holds barred, Rip Thomas, fine. But I feel like every single time they come out with a new Hogan-esque or Hogan-type figure, they keep getting a Series 5. I'm like, stop it. That's too much. Not only do you have a million Hogans, but you're just keep producing the exact same figure over and over again. And guys with OCD like myself are going to have to, not want to, but have to keep buying it. So then they came out with a no-shirt Series 5 Hogan. Later on, they came out with the exact same no-shirt Hogan, only they've upgraded him to a much younger, late 70s, early 80s Japan Hogan, and gave him, obviously, his Japan 1980s getup. Now, if you actually watch old footage of Hogan in Japan, the man was a very technical wrestler. It's like watching kids in like college or high school, and you see how like they do all their moves, and you kind of think of Bret Hart, excellence of execution, right? You see his different holds and takedowns and stuff. That is a real wrestler, and I've talked about it time and time again. Hogan, when he gets to WWF, he is just broken down to the bare minimum. A punch to the face, a claw to the back, a boot to the face, and a leg drop. That's basically all he is. Why were they so scared to let him do any sort of like real wrestling? Andre the Giant. I mean, yeah, I get it. When I watched Andre, and when I remember from him from childhood, he was sick. He was injured. When you have a form of gigantism, yeah, health is never going to be all that great. But you look at him in like the 70s, early 80s, especially in Japan, the way that Andre the Giant and 7+ feet, 500 pounds, flying over the ring, flying over the ropes, I'm like, wow. The way that he's able to jump up and allow Kamala to body slam him, or allow King Harley Race to body slam him. I'm like, what? Insane, right? So, I love this look. This is an amazing look, and I really do like the figure. I like the figure a lot. The only downside I have with it is the fact that it's just reproducing the exact same Series 5 Hogan over and over again, and that's where my complaint lies. Now, Eric, in January 2023, he had a Series 1 Hogan with this exact look. So long before they came out before Ram Travis came out with this, I bought that from him, and he didn't ship that out to me until almost a year and a half later, it seemed. But a couple months ago, when I finally got my box of figures, I finally got that one, and it wasn't to my liking. But this is a spectacular looking figure. It really is. And the head, I do recommend the figure. Don't get me wrong, guys. I do recommend the figure. I just wish the prices were lower, man. Paul Bearer. Paul freaking Bearer. I love the fact that they brought Undertaker and Paul Bearer to the LJN collection and gave us real and authentic figures. And I don't know how to feel about Paul Bearer's face. It just looks so freaking weird. Like, I like the figure a lot, but like, I can't get over the awkward shape and expression on Paul Bearer's face. So that gets to me. Plus the hand, which is supposed to hold the urn. I can't get that damn urn to stay in the hand worth the darn. Every single time I put that urn in his hand, it pops out. So I don't know if the hand is too small, if the urn is too big. It does not stick with it. And I've said it. It kills me. It absolutely destroys my soul. I can't stand it when there are accessories that go to figures that just do not function. And what else do we got? I can't stand the point. Why always the pointer finger? I know that the pointer fingers or thumbs up and things like that shouldn't bother me, but it does. Like I said, and it's just like, I get it. I'm not wrestling these guys, but you just never know what's going to happen with these figures in the future. Some collector at some point are going to get their hands on these figures 20, 30, 40 years from now. Somebody's going to be goofing off playing with these, and they're going to give them to kids or something, and they're going to... These things are going to break off. Paul Bearer, to me, is always going to be the Undertaker's manager. That's it. Turning on the Undertaker was like the stupidest move. I don't think I was watching. Was I watching wrestling when that happened? I don't think so. You would think that something like that would have really stood out to me in childhood, but I don't think I was watching wrestling back in that day when Paul Bearer turned on Undertaker. But becoming manager of Kane was perfectly fine. I mean, they could have. I mean, they eventually tag teamed and became like this colossal tag team dynamic force. So why not? Managing Mankind. Think about the Heenan family or the $1 Million Corporation. Think about the stable of wrestlers that Paul Bearer could have put together. Even if it was just 3 guys with Mankind, Kane, and Undertaker. I mean, those 3 guys alone could have been a dynamic force that could have taken care of any other competition. So, he could have one of the most dynamic stables out there. So to me, Paul Bearer turning on the Undertaker was the equivalent of Shawn Michaels turning on Marty Jannetty. Heartbreaking. Super glad to get Paul Bearer. Pricey, absolutely. Weird freaking facial expression. I don't know what's up with his head and the expression on his face, but to me, to me, the Hulk Hogan figure is an absolute no-brainer. Hogan will move on to round 2. Now, the main event for this video, Colonel Mustafa versus Doink. We will start with Doink. Now, we saw from the Raider Nation the Doink that utilized the Harley Race figure. And one of the things I talked about was the fact that I love the Raider Nation, that they used high quality or highly valuable figures like Outback Jack, like Billy Jack Haynes, like Harley Race, right? They use some of the more expensive figures. Vince McMahon, I'm trying to think who else they came out with. Jim Brunzell, guys like that, right? Rick Martel. They use some of the more expensive figures to customize their figures. You know, they're not going out and utilizing Nikolai Volkov and Hillbilly Jim and Jesse Ventura and Tino Martinez. Why do I keep thinking baseball? What was I saying? Tito Santana to customize figures. And the one thing about the Doink figure, Harley Race, terrible play pose, but I love the way that the figure looked. Now, if you kind of look at Mike Stiers on eBay, or look at him on his YouTube channel, there were several figures that he customized. And, you know, watching his videos, there were specific figures I was always looking forward to. Like, I really wanted. Like, I saw that Jim Neidhart with the Junkyard Dog pose. I saw this Doink as a couple of examples, right? And I thought they were absolute killer figures. Later on, when I come across his eBay account, I'm like, heck yeah, I'm getting the opportunity to buy some of his figures. None of the figures that he had up were anything that I particularly were interested in, or some that they were just, you know, priced more than what I was comfortable paying. I will say this, he did have a Nikolai Volkov figure with kind of like a red built-on jacket and hat. I'm like, I want to kick myself in the head for not buying that figure. It was like $55 or something like that, and I feel like it was worth it. But I guess I was waiting for him to come down in price, or maybe have him send me an offer, and that just never happened, and then it sold. I'm like, son of a gun. It was a beautiful figure. And one of those figures that, again, could have gone far in this tournament. So, such a good figure. I love what Mike did with this figure. Amazing. You guys already know what the Nikolai Volkov figure means to me personally. So, anytime I get any kind of figure that's customized using Nikolai Volkov, it's not exactly the worst thing in the world. My Doink figure, obviously, Goldust. I'm trying to think some of the other figures that I have that are customized using Nikolai Volkov, but you get the idea. Excellent paint job throughout, okay? And unlike the Harley Race version of the Doink figure, an actual playable wrestling action figure, okay? And the hair, I think this actually fits the mold of like what the Mattel Retros are using. So the face, I like the creepiness aspect of the other Doink better, but this is still the clownish version, a very clowny version of the figure. So again, this matchup made me mad because one of these two figures are going to go home and they're both figures that I would love to see. Not 2 rounds, not 3. I want to see in the 4th round, maybe even the 5th round. Doink is spectacular. Harvey Snuts on Mercari. Hulk $0125. I think the first figure I ever bought from him was Colonel Mustafa. I paid, I believe, $20 for this figure. 20 freaking dollars for what might possibly be the greatest LJN figure ever made. When I talked about figures that could threaten Bruiser Brody for the greatest LJN figure, or my favorite LJN figure of what I own, this is one of the figures I acquired, and why I was so excited about redoing this tournament again. Hell freaking yeah, this figure is in the competition, and that has the potential to beat that figure. I could say the same thing that I've said about other figures. The one thing that he doesn't have that Bruiser Brody has is accessory. So when I named like 5 or 6 different things that I look for in a figure, and accessory is one of those items. Is it a necessity? Absolutely not, but it's just nice. Now, generally when you look at Iron Sheik, you think, okay, Iron Sheik, one of my top 5 least favorite LJN figures ever. So how can one of my least favorite poses, one of my least favorite figures possibly be among my favorites? Look at this freaking custom job. Let's start off with the bray. All right, when you look at the flash, perfectly situated right over the left eye. The way that it's the bray is tugged down beautifully. I don't know how they did this, but this was absolutely spectacular. All right, you got the medals right there on the chest. I don't know what these cords are. If this was high school, I would say the drill and ceremony cord, but that's not obviously what that is. Obviously, U.S. Service members don't have that. It's just freaking perfect. I mean, they actually built on. I mean, you feel this figure? It's actually it's heavy, not like King Kong Bundy heavy. Probably not even Big John Studd heavy, anything like that. But it's got extra weight to it compared to like the original Iron Sheik figure. I mean, this is a rubber figure, okay? It's not resin or anything. It does move. It's just that they built on the clothing. I'm assuming that they built on an extra layer over the boots, or maybe they just repainted it, but look at that. Look at every minute detail that went into this. It's literally like they just took a shrink ray gun and just shrunk a real life person. That is how pristine and perfect every single detail. Yeah, man. I mean, he may not have the pose. All right. First off, before I move forward, Colonel Mustafa is moving forward to round 2. And Doink, 2 Doinks in this tournament, they both did not make it out of round 1, which is depressing because they're both great figures. But before I move on to the last match, I know that my Bruiser Brody is a 2-time champion. Right now, I do have him, Bruiser Brody, on the pedestal to be my most likely winner of this tournament. But just kind of going over this figure detail by detail, kind of looking at the Bruiser Brody and kind of saying how it is kind of cartoonish and whatnot, I feel like this could be my winner. Now, this is only the first round. There are 7 rounds in this tournament, so it's way too early, way too soon. I mean, come on, we're barely halfway through round 1, so a lot of things could change. This guy could be eliminated in the second round, depending on who he faces. But when I say this is an absolute perfect figure, $20. 20 freaking Think about that. Think about the customizers or the figures you got. I love Big Rubber guys. And I say their $50 figures are awesome and they're affordable. But come on. Not even their demolition figures have been able to match up to this. And they're 60% higher in price than this. Absolutely amazing. I could not have been more thrilled to pick this piece up. And Jesus, if I missed out on this, I mean, if I had not known any better, I probably wouldn't be thinking twice. But imagine if I saw this figure on that page and I saw a video and somebody else bought it and they were reviewing this figure. I would have thrown my hands up and just freaking screamed into a pillow or something because this is amazing. Alright, last matchup, guys, is going to feature the Galoob 2-Up of Ric Flair as he does battle against, from the Raider Nation, the Purple Slick. So, the tag just says Ric Flair. Now, I've got Ric Flair from Wrestling Rider. I've got a red Ric Flair. And I think... No, I also got from the Raider Nation, I've got another Ric Flair. So, because I only wrote Ric Flair on there, I'm assuming that I'm talking about this one. At least I'm hoping. But, Ric Flair, Galoob 2-Up. I mean, I don't know what you can really say about the Galoobs. I'm pretty sure mostly everybody that watches this channel have had some level of Galoob figures over their life. May or may not have had the entire line. Even as collectors, as adult collectors, they may not have the entire line. But I feel like Ric Flair is probably like the most common figure that everyone probably would have had. Now, I've always said Ric Flair, the 2 Steiner brothers, Sid Vicious, Lex Luger, Brian Pillman, and Ron Simmons. Those were the only 7 figures I had from Galoob. And yeah, Ric Flair was probably one of the more enjoyable Galoob figures. I still don't covet the Ric Flair Galoob figure as much as many out there do. I know there are a lot of people out there who think that Ric Flair Galoob, the most perfect Galoob or most perfect action figure ever. No. Ric Flair Galoob is like a 4.5 out of 10 at best. 5 out of 10 at best. But I mean it's a good figure. It's a good figure. It's not great. Looks great. The play poses, again, it's enjoyable compared to what a lot of the Galoob figures had play pose wise. When you had to use stuff like Ron Simmons or Scott Steiner, yeah, of course this is something that's going to be better than most. But I mean, to me, unless you got like Sid Vicious, which to me is the cream of the crop of action figures. But look is solid. Pose is adequate. I think Rick Steiner is slightly better figure than Ric Flair. And they're roughly the same figure overall. That's why I'm kind of like, I don't want to say mad at Random Treasures, but I'm like, alright, let's get on it. You got Ric Flair, we can make Rick Steiner. We got Mr. Perfect, let's make Scott Steiner. Let's get her done. Raider Nation, they came out with, artist Kenny Lester, he came out with the purple Mr. Slick. And there are a lot of customizers, I'm sure, that utilize the purple outfit for Slick. So there's always like this extra glossy shininess that you see to the figure, especially when you look at the face and the hands. I really wish I knew what that stuff was, because I always talk about it, but I don't know how to describe it, because I don't know what they use. Slick, to me, I never talk about Elizabeth as being one of the worst LJN figures, because to me, overall, I kind of treat Elizabeth more of like a Barbie-esque type figure. Like, I really don't consider her to be part of the main LJNs. So I really don't say Elizabeth is the worst LJN figure ever. I don't put her on the top 10 list of worst LJNs. If I was doing a countdown, I mean, I'd have to include her, right? But Elizabeth and Slick, because of the tininess of the figures, they obviously have some of the least value to me. But yeah, Slick in of his own right. Just if talking about original LJNs, you're looking at like a $40 figure essentially. On a low end, maybe $25, $30, depending on condition. And if he comes with a hat accessory, $60, $80, $100, depending. Again, conditions always everything. It's really painted well. Really nice color design. Really looks like a pimp here. Looks amazing. So, but color and detail, that's really the only thing that Slick has going for him. Other than that, a much wider, broader, better fighting pose, better playable figure, a real wrestling action figure. Yeah, Ric Flair, come on, it's not even a question. When we drew these names, immediately you knew Ric Flair was going to win. The only way Ric Flair wasn't going to win this matchup is if it was the Wrestling Rider Ric Flair, which with the Tito Santana arms, that wasn't going to beat Slick. But pretty much any of the other Ric Flairs, for the most part, are pretty much a shoo-in. Second rounder for now. Is he a third rounder? I think most of the Gloop 2-ups have the potential to get into the fourth round. Do they make it into the fifth round? I think that might be the cutoff, but we shall see. Well, guys, once again, thank you so much for another fun and enjoyable episode. As always, I appreciate your viewership. If you have any comments, questions, please feel free to reach out. As always, I always try to respond in a timely fashion. And until next time, thanks, guys.